On the day my wife passed away, I said nothing about the $28 million inheritance or about the skyscraper in New York City under my name. That same night, my daughter-in-law screamed, "Pack your bags, the old leech doesn't stay here," I said, "Okay." Then I decided to do something that froze the shrew. I'm Albert Morrison, and I'm 66 years old. Let me tell you what happened next. On the day Patricia died, I thought the worst pain I could feel was losing my partner of 23 years. Turns out I was wrong. The real pain hit 12 hours later when my own family showed me exactly what they thought I was worth. Patricia had been my everything. My wife, my business partner, the only person who knew we'd quietly built a $28 million empire while everyone thought I was just some retired guy living on Social Security. For over 2 decades, we played this game perfectly. Let the kids think old dad was scraping by on a pension while Patricia and I bought apartment buildings, office complexes, and yes, that 47-story tower in Manhattan. The funeral went exactly how Patricia would have wanted, dignified, respectful. I sat in the front row wearing my best navy suit, the one she always said made me look like a real businessman, keeping it together like a man should. People kept coming up telling me what a devoted husband I'd been, how I'd taken care of her through cancer without complaining once. If they only knew I'd been running our real estate empire from her hospital room. My oldest son Ryan gave a nice speech about Patricia being a wonderful stepmother. My daughter Nicole read some poem. Even my ex-wife Sandra managed to say something decent about the woman who'd helped raise her kids for 23 years. But my youngest son Kyle's wife, Brenda, that's who I was watching. She'd married Kyle 3 years back, and from day one, made it crystal clear she thought I was dead weight. Some old codger taking up space that could be better used for her and Kyle's future. All day long she's giving me these calculating looks. When I'd step away to talk to the funeral director, she'd huddle up with Ryan and Nicole, whispering like they were planning something. When I'd sit down to catch my breath, she'd flash these cold little smiles that made my skin crawl. Last guest left around 8:30. I was in the kitchen, loading dishes into the washer, hands shaking more from anger than grief when I heard footsteps. Heavy ones, deliberate. They stopped right behind me. "Well, that's over with," Brenda announced. I didn't turn around, kept loading plates, focusing on the simple task to keep from losing my temper. "Thanks for helping with everything today. Patricia would have appreciated it." "Cut the act, Albert." Her voice could have cut steel. I finally turned around. There she was, arms crossed, still in her black dress but having dropped any pretense of mourning. Behind her stood Kyle, looking uncomfortable. Ryan and Nicole flanked them like some kind of tribunal. "Sorry?" I managed to say. Brenda stepped closer. "The grieving widower routine. You can drop it. We need to talk business." My hand stopped on the dishwasher door. "What business?" "This house, Patricia's assets, the insurance money." She said each word like she was explaining something to a 5-year-old. "Kyle and I have talked it over with Ryan and Nicole. We think it's time you found your own place." The kitchen started spinning around me. "My own place." Nicole cleared her throat. "Dad, what Brenda means is this house is way too big for one person. The upkeep alone costs a fortune." "Are you telling me to leave?" I asked. Barely above a whisper. Brenda smiled. Wasn't a nice smile. "I'm telling you to face facts. You're 66 years old, Albert. Patricia took care of things while she was alive, but now you need to think about downsizing, something more appropriate for your situation." "My situation?" "Come on. You never really worked after that little consulting business folded, did you? Patricia handled the finances, the house, everything. This was her money, her security. She gestured around my kitchen like she was already picking out new appliances. The family needs to make practical decisions about her estate." Something ice-cold settled in my chest. This is my home. I've lived here 20 years. And it's been great, I'm sure. Ryan finally spoke up. "But Dad, you'd want us to be smart about this. There are grandkids to think about, college funds."
"Retirement planning, Patricia left a will," I said. "Right, and we'll honor whatever she set aside for you," Brenda said dismissively. "But let's be realistic.
You were her second husband, not her business partner. You didn't build anything together. You were just there. Just there. After 23 years of marriage, after building an empire together, after caring for her through everything, I was just there." "I think you should pack tonight," Brenda continued. "Kyle and I will stay here to handle the transition. Easier for everyone if we manage Patricia's affairs directly." I looked at Kyle, silently begging him to remember I'd raised him since he was 10. Taught him to drive, walked him through his first heartbreak. But he wouldn't meet my eyes. Where exactly am I supposed to go? I asked. Brenda shrugged. There are nice senior communities around here, assisted living places. I'm sure you'll find something in your budget, assisted living. Like I was some helpless old man who couldn't tie his own shoes. I stood there in my own kitchen, surrounded by people I'd considered family, feeling my heart break all over again. Losing Patricia was devastating. But this was betrayal. This was being erased from my own life. But looking at their faces, Brenda's cruel satisfaction, the others' uncomfortable but determined expressions, something else started growing alongside the pain. Something cold and quiet and very, very patient. "Okay," I said simply. Brenda blinked. "Okay, I'll pack tonight. Be gone in the morning." The silence was deafening. They'd expected me to fight, to beg, to make a scene that would justify how they were treating me. Instead, I turned back to the dishwasher and kept working. "Well," Brenda said, clearly thrown off. "Good. That's very mature of you." I didn't respond, just listened as their footsteps retreated, as they started dividing up my life in excited whispers from the living room. They had no idea what they'd just done. Thought they were getting rid of a burden, claiming what was rightfully theirs. Thought Patricia's widower was just some old guy with nowhere to go and nothing to fight back with. They were about to learn how wrong they were. I packed 2 suitcases that night. Just 2. Everything else, the jewelry, artwork, expensive clothes, I left behind. Let them think that was all they were getting. The Hampton Inn became my temporary headquarters. Nothing fancy, but it had reliable internet and a business center. More importantly, it was anonymous. I checked in as Albert Morrison, paid cash for a week. The desk clerk barely looked at me. Just another senior citizen, probably visiting grandchildren. Perfect. Invisible was exactly what I needed right now. First call I made was to Benjamin Taylor. Ben had been my attorney for 25 years, but more than that, he'd been helping me structure this whole setup for the past 15. Not that anyone in my family knew that. Albert, Ben's voice was warm when he picked up. "I'm sorry about Patricia, she was special. Thanks, Ben. I need to see you tomorrow. Somewhere private." Pause. "The family's giving you trouble already." Something like that. "I'll come to you, text me the address." Ben showed up the next morning carrying his leather briefcase and wearing the expression of a man who dealt with greedy families more times than he cared to count. I'd ordered coffee from room service, a small luxury that would have raised eyebrows if anyone was watching. "How bad?" Ben asked, settling into the room's only armchair. I told him about the previous night, about being told to find appropriate housing, about how they dismissed me as someone who'd never contributed anything. Ben's jaw tightened as I spoke. "Do they have any idea about your actual situation?" "None. Patricia and I decided years ago it was better that way. Let them think she was the money and I was just along for the ride. You sure you want to proceed as we discussed?" I looked out the hotel window at the parking lot, at ordinary people with ordinary problems yesterday. They would have seen me as one of them. Just another older guy, probably struggling on a fixed income. They had no idea the man in room 237 owned more property than most of them could imagine, I'm sure. "How long will it take?" Ben opened his briefcase and pulled out a thick folder. "Preliminary transfers can be completed within 48 hours. Complete restructuring will take about 2 weeks. And Albert, there's no way they can contest it. Everything's been legally yours for over a decade." Patricia transferred ownership precisely to avoid situations like this. I nodded, feeling cold satisfaction settle deeper into my bones. "What about the house?" Ben allowed himself a small smile. "Technically, you could evict them today, but I assume you have something more educational in mind. I want them to show me exactly who they are first. Let them get comfortable, make their plans, divide up what they think is theirs, give them enough rope, and then I'll remind them that assumptions can be expensive." Ben spent the next hour walking me through documents, explaining procedures, confirming details that had been years in the making. Most widowers would be lost in the legal terminology, overwhelmed by estate planning complexity. But I wasn't most widowers. After Ben left, I drove to the house. My house parked across the street and watched through tinted windows as moving trucks arrived. Brenda was directing workers like she was running a military operation, pointing at my study, gesturing toward the bedrooms. She'd brought her own furniture. This wasn't temporary, she was moving in permanently. My phone buzzed, text from Kyle. "Hope you found a nice place, Dad. Brenda's organizing Mom's office. Found some business files we need to go through." I almost laughed out loud. Business files in Patricia's study. If they only knew Patricia's real business files weren't in that house at all. They were in a safety deposit box downtown, along with property deeds, stock certificates, and documentation that would turn their world upside down. But let them look through desk drawers, let them find appointment books and client lists from the tiny consulting firm everyone thought was our only income. Let them calculate modest assets and plan modest inheritances. The truth would be so much more devastating when it came. I spent the afternoon at First National, where I'd maintained accounts they knew nothing about. Amanda Johnson, my private banker, greeted me with professional sympathy. "Mr. Morrison, I was so sorry to hear about Patricia. How are you holding up?" "As well as can be expected. I need to make some account adjustments." Amanda nodded, probably assuming I needed to update beneficiaries or handle survivor benefits. Instead, I handed her Ben's documentation. Her eyes widened as she read. "Mr. Morrison, these amounts, I had no idea you were working with such substantial assets. Privacy was important to Patricia and me, but circumstances have changed." As Amanda processed the paperwork, I thought about Brenda back at the house, probably going through my closet, deciding which of my clothes were worth keeping. Thought about Ryan and Nicole likely meeting with financial advisors to discuss their mother's estate. They thought they'd gotten rid of me. Thought the inconvenient widower was out of the way, leaving them free to claim their inheritance. They had no idea they'd just picked a fight with someone who'd spent 23 years learning how to play the long game. My phone rang. Brenda's name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail, then listened with growing amusement. "Albert, we found some confusing paperwork in Patricia's office. Legal documents that don't make sense. Could you call me back? There might be things you need to explain. Confusing paperwork." I could only imagine what they'd found. Probably outdated copies Patricia kept for show. Documents referencing assets that no longer existed under her name. They were getting nervous. Realizing their mother's financial picture wasn't as clear-cut as they'd assumed, I deleted the message without responding. Let them wonder. Let them spend sleepless nights trying to figure out why nothing added up. Over the next few days, my phone buzzed constantly with increasingly urgent messages from the family, each one more demanding than the last. Brenda wanted me to come back and explain discrepancies they'd found. She needed me to sign documents. She had questions only I could answer. I ignored them all. Instead, I spent my mornings in the hotel's business center, making calls that would have shocked them senseless. Tuesday, I spoke with the property management company that handled my 3 apartment complexes in Manhattan. Wednesday, I had a conference call with my investment advisor about moving some assets around. Thursday, I spent 2 hours on the phone with architects about renovation plans for my office buildings in Boston. On Friday morning, Ben called with news that made me smile for the first time since Patricia's funeral. "They've hired an attorney," he said without preamble. "Have they now?" "Trevor Davis from Davis and Associates. He's asking questions about Patricia's estate. Apparently, the family has some concerns about asset distribution and wants to ensure everything is being handled properly." I set down my coffee cup, feeling that familiar cold satisfaction spread through my chest. How proper of them to be concerned. There's more. They're requesting a formal reading of the will. They want all beneficiaries present, including you. When? Monday afternoon, 200 at their attorney's office. Perfect. I'll be there. Albert, are you sure you're ready for this? Once we walk into that room, there's no going back. They're going to learn exactly who you are. I looked out my hotel window one last time at the ordinary world beyond. Soon, very soon, I would no longer be invisible to the family that had dismissed me so easily. "Ben, I've been ready for 15 years. That weekend, I went shopping. Not at the discount stores they probably expected a newly poor widower to frequent, but at the boutiques I'd always preferred. I chose a charcoal gray suit, elegant but understated, along with Patricia's favorite tie and the Rolex she'd given me for our 20th anniversary. I wanted to look exactly like what I was, a man of substance who had simply chosen to be underestimated. Sunday evening, I moved out of the Hampton Inn and into the penthouse suite at the Fairmont Hotel downtown. Just for one night, just to remind myself who I really was before walking into that meeting. I ordered room service, lobster and champagne, and reviewed the documents Ben had prepared. Everything was in order. Everything was legal. Everything was about to change. Monday morning arrived gray and drizzly, the kind of weather that matched my mood perfectly. I dressed carefully, applied aftershave with precision, and arrived at Davis and Associates 15 minutes early. The receptionist, a young woman who couldn't have been more than 25, looked me over with barely concealed dismissal. "You're here for the Morrison estate reading?" she asked, checking her computer screen. "I am Albert Morrison, the widower." Something in my tone made her look up sharply, but before she could respond, voices erupted from down the hall, loud, angry voices that I recognized immediately. "This is ridiculous," Brenda was saying. "Why does he even need to be here? He's not a real beneficiary." "The law requires all named parties to be present," came an unfamiliar male voice. "Their attorney, presumably." "But he didn't contribute anything to the estate," Ryan added. "Mom supported him, not the other way around. Nevertheless, he has legal standing as the surviving spouse," the lawyer continued. "I listened to them argue about me like I was an inconvenience, a legal technicality to be managed." The receptionist kept glancing at me nervously, probably wondering if I was going to break down or cause a scene. Instead, I sat quietly in the leather chair, hands folded, looking exactly like the kind of harmless old man they expected me to be. At exactly 200, Ben arrived. He nodded to me with professional courtesy, giving no indication that we'd spent hours planning this moment. Behind him came a woman I didn't recognize, tall, sharp-dressed, with the kind of presence that commanded attention. "Mr. Morrison," Ben said formally, "I'd like you to meet Jennifer Walsh. She'll be representing your interests today." Jennifer extended her hand with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Mr. Morrison, I've heard a great deal about your situation." Before I could respond, Trevor Davis himself appeared. A soft-looking man in his 50s who seemed overwhelmed by the circumstances he'd been hired to manage. "Well," he said, mopping his forehead with a handkerchief, "I believe everyone is here now. Shall we proceed?" The conference room was larger than it needed to be, with a polished table that could have seated 20 people. The family had arranged themselves on one side like they were preparing for battle. Brenda sat at the head, flanked by Kyle and Nicole, with Ryan positioned slightly behind them like backup. They'd dressed for success. Expensive suits, confident postures, the look of people who expected to inherit everything. I took the seat directly across from them with Ben and Jennifer on either side of me. The symbolism wasn't lost on anyone in the room. Trevor Davis cleared his throat and began reading Patricia's will in a monotone voice that suggested he'd done this hundreds of times before. The standard language about being of sound mind, the formal declarations, the preliminary bequests to charity. Then came the part they'd been waiting for. "To my beloved stepchildren, Ryan, Nicole, and Kyle, I leave the sum of $50,000 each, to be distributed equally among them." I watched their faces carefully. For forfeit fifths, 50,000 each was generous for most families, but it was far less than they'd expected. Brenda's mouth tightened almost imperceptibly. Nicole frowned. Ryan leaned forward like he'd misheard. "And to my dear husband, Albert Morrison, I leave the remainder of my estate, including all properties, investments, and business interests, to be his absolutely and without restriction." The silence that followed was deafening. Trevor continued reading, but I could see that no one was listening anymore. They were all staring at me with expressions ranging from shock to outrage to disbelief. "Excuse me," Brenda interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "Could you repeat that last part?" Trevor looked uncomfortable. "The bulk of Mrs. Morrison's estate goes to her surviving husband, as is customary in such circumstances." "But what exactly does that include?" Nicole asked, her voice rising. "The house, her business. What are we talking about here?" It was Jennifer Walsh who answered, consulting her own copy of the will with professional detachment. "According to these documents, Mr. Morrison inherits all real property, all financial accounts, all business assets, and all personal property not specifically mentioned elsewhere in the will." "That's impossible," Ryan said flatly. "Mom would never leave us with just $50,000 each." Ben leaned forward slightly. "I'm afraid it's quite legal, Mr. Morrison. Your stepmother was very specific about her intentions, but he didn't earn any of it." Brenda exploded, finally losing the composure she'd been struggling to maintain. "He never worked. He never contributed anything. He was just there, living off her success." The words hung in the air like poison. The same phrase she'd used the night she'd thrown me out of my own home. The same dismissal, the same contempt, the same fundamental misunderstanding of who I really was. I stood up slowly, feeling every eye in the room focus on me. For 23 years, I had let Patricia be the face of our success. I had allowed people to assume she was the business mind while I played the supporting husband. I had been content to remain in the shadows, building my empire quietly while she took credit publicly. But Patricia was gone now, and the shadows had served their purpose. "You're absolutely right, Brenda," I said quietly. "I never contributed anything to Patricia's success." She blinked, clearly not expecting agreement. Patricia's consulting business, her modest investments, her reputation in the community, that was all her. I had nothing to do with any of it. I could see confusion rippling across their faces. This wasn't the response they'd expected. "But you see," I continued, my voice growing stronger, "Patricia's estate isn't what you think it is, and I'm not who you think I am." Jennifer was already reaching into her briefcase, pulling out documents that would change everything. Ben was checking his watch, timing the moment perfectly. "What do you mean?" Kyle asked, speaking for the first time since the reading began. I looked at each of them in turn. These people who had dismissed me, who had thrown me out of my own home, who had treated me like a burden to be disposed of. I said, allowing myself the smallest smile, that you've been operating under some very expensive assumptions about who owns what in this family. Jennifer opened her briefcase with surgical precision. The documents she withdrew were organized in neat folders, each one labeled with the kind of detail that suggested this moment had been planned for years. "Perhaps we should clarify exactly what constitutes Patricia Morrison's estate," Jennifer said in her crisp voice. Trevor Davis shifted uncomfortably. "I'm not sure I understand the question." "The question," Ben interjected, "is whether Patricia actually owned the assets her family believes they're inheriting." I watched Brenda's confident smirk begin to crack around the edges. "Of course she owned them," Brenda said, but uncertainty was creeping into her voice. "The house, the business, everything. Albert never worked." "That's where you're wrong," Jennifer interrupted, sliding the first document across the polished table. "Mr. Morrison has been the primary owner of virtually every significant asset in this family for over 15 years. The paper landed in front of Brenda with a whisper that seemed to echo in the suddenly silent room. She stared at it like it might bite her. "This is the deed to the property at 47 Elm Street," Jennifer continued. "The house you've been living in since Mr. Morrison graciously vacated it." Notice the name on the title. Brenda picked up the document with trembling fingers. Her face went white as she read. "Albert Morrison," she whispered. "Correct. The house was transferred to Mr. Morrison's sole ownership in 2008, 5 years after their marriage. Patricia retained lifetime occupancy rights, but ownership transferred completely upon her death." Nicole grabbed the paper from Brenda's hands, scanning it frantically. "This has to be a mistake. Mom bought that house before she even met him." "She did," Ben confirmed, "and then refinanced it in 2007 using capital that Mr. Morrison provided. When the new mortgage was issued, ownership transferred to him as the primary financial backer." "What capital?" Ryan demanded. "He never had any money." Jennifer smiled coldly. "Mr. Morrison has had considerable assets since before his marriage to your stepmother. He simply chose not to advertise that fact. I had been quiet long enough. These people had spent the last week living in my house, planning their futures based on my assets, treating me like discarded trash. Time for them to understand exactly who they'd been dismissing." "The money came from my first marriage," I said calmly. "When my first wife died in 2000, she left me quite well provided for real estate investments, stock portfolios, life insurance. I was 55 years old and financially independent when I met Patricia." The silence was deafening. "But you never worked," Kyle said weakly, clinging to his worldview. "I didn't need to work traditionally. I managed investments, bought and sold properties, made business decisions." I gestured toward Jennifer, who was preparing the next folder. "I just did it quietly." Jennifer slid new documents across the table. "These are the ownership papers for Morrison Holdings, LLC, established in 2001. Mr. Morrison is the sole proprietor of a company that owns 23 properties across 4 states. Brenda's hand flew to her throat, including 3 apartment complexes in Manhattan, 2 office buildings in Boston, and a recently renovated skyscraper in New York that was appraised at $28 million. The number hit the room like a physical force. I watched as understanding shifted and cracked. $28 million, Nicole's voice barely a whisper. "That's just one property," Ben added helpfully. Document after document appeared like cards in a high-stakes poker game. Bank statements with balances that made Patricia's modest savings look like pocket change. Investment records detailing holdings in companies they'd never heard of. Property deeds from Maine to Florida. The total value of Mr. Morrison's holdings, Jennifer announced, is approximately $47 million, not including assets he inherited from Patricia's estate, which amount to roughly $300,000 in business assets and personal effects. 47 million. The words hung like smoke. Brenda was staring at me with something approaching terror. "You're lying," she said, but her voice had no conviction. "Which part would I be lying about?" I asked pleasantly. "The part where I've been financially independent since before I met Patricia?" Or the part where you've been living in my house for the past week. The truth of what they'd done was finally sinking in. I could see it in their faces, the growing horror as they realized they hadn't just been cruel to a helpless widower. They'd been cruel to someone who could destroy them financially without breaking a sweat. "I'll give you 72 hours to remove your belongings from my house," I said quietly. "After that, I'll have you legally evicted." As I walked toward the door, Brenda's voice followed me, high and desperate. "Albert, please. We can work something out. We're family." I paused at the threshold. "Family," I repeated softly. "You know, Brenda, you're right. We are family, and you've just taught me exactly what that word means to you." I walked out knowing my old life was over. The invisible widower was gone forever. In his place stood someone they should have been much more careful about crossing. Now I'm curious about you who've listened to my story. What would you do if you were in my place? Have you ever been written off by people who thought they knew your worth? Sometimes the folks who underestimate us the most are the ones closest to home. If you've got a similar story or just want to share your thoughts, drop a comment below. I'd like to know how far this old man's tale has traveled.